Hello again, welcome to part 2 of chapter 18. So we started discussing carbon dioxide. So remember, during photosynthesis, plants take carbon dioxide in to make sugars. And then during cellular respiration, mitochondria in the plants or animals break that down to make ATP and they release carbon dioxide. So generally, those are balanced. However, the release of carbon dioxide has been increased. So we take out trees so we don't have as many photosynthetic organisms taking in carbon dioxide. And then we burn the ones that are there. We burn fossil fuels and wood, and those all release carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. Another large proportion of greenhouse gases is from cows. Cows' flatulence has methane, CH4, and that's actually a stronger greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. And they release, because methane is 23 times stronger as greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide, one cow makes as much gas as equivalent to us driving almost 8,000 miles in a year. That's a lot. In total, it's about 2.8 billion tons of carbon emissions each year. That's 18% of the world's emissions. And 30% of our land in the world is for livestock. And 33% of farmed land goes to feed livestock. So I'm not saying to completely cut cows out of your diet, become a vegetarian, but decreasing the amount of food from cows and even just other higher level consumers decreases the amount of energy taken to make them. Something to definitely think about. So here this photo just shows how carbon dioxide goes from the atmosphere into the land. Plants use it for photosynthesis. Mitochondria break it down into carbon dioxide again. Fossil fuels send it in the atmosphere as well. And the ocean is also a place that holds carbon dioxide. So what does this mean to our ecosystem? Why else does climate change matter? In both plants and animals, life cycle events can be determined by temperatures or day length. So right now those match up really well. But as it gets warmer, the things that go by temperature are here, and the things that go by day length later. So look at short day and long day breeders, for example. Moose are short day breeders. That means as our day length is decreasing towards the winter, they mate. Just like deer, November, they mate. Then by spring, their offspring is fully cooked, and then you give birth at that time. When there's all sorts of vegetation present, the offspring has the best chance at survival. You also have long day breeders, like weasels. Those go as their day lengths get longer. They have a shorter gestation period. They'll still give birth in the spring. But if they're going by day length and not what's happening around them, they might miss it. They might be before all the vegetation is there or after. And then offspring survivability would decrease. Other examples, plants can bloom before the pollinators have even emerged for the year, as well as different phenotypes, different physical characteristics can be based on day length as well. For example, the snowshoe hares, in the winter they're white, so they blend in with the snow, and in the summer they're brown, so they blend in with the dirt and grass. But if the snow melts sooner, they'll still be white and stand out on that vegetative now landscape. Another effect of climate change is catastrophic wildfire seasons. So, like drought areas like California, we've had really bad wildfires there the last few years because it's been so dry. You can change this and help a little bit by management practices. Burning is actually a natural part of an ecosystem. It resets things, it brings nutrients into the soil. You're able to see these levels of succession where you have grass to start out with long prairie, wildflowers, then you start getting little trees, and then after 20 years it can be a forest again. If you don't have any fire, all the trees that fall over, they become kindling and it can spread really fast. So if you do these controlled burns like here, hopefully you'll have less kindling, and if a fire does occur, it won't spread as far. And some plants are actually dependent on fire. So like some conifers, their cones don't open until they've been heated. Another example would be bark beetles. So like the emerald ash borer, that's spreading around the country and it drills into ash trees and kills them. When it's warm, they can breed twice a year and spread farther than if it's cooler. So as we get warmer, they'll spread faster. Now I want to talk about deforestation, fragmentation, and desertification. These are three important topics for ecology and ways that we are altering the environment. So first is deforestation. For farming, oftentimes, you'll have areas like cut and burned. You can take the trees, so you're reducing wildlife habitat, decreasing amount of the carbon dioxide photosynthesis areas, and you're also messing with soil. So if there's no roots here, soil can erode and move faster. And one of the things that happens there oftentimes is what's called fragmentation. So as we fragment, you can see the edge of the trees here. There are more edges overall. So some species only live in the middle of a forest. They don't live anywhere near the edge, especially birds. And as we cut out those middles and make more edges, those birds don't survive very well. They don't have their normal habitat. Another issue is desertification. So that's grassland area turning into desert, if you guess by the name. We used to, especially in the western US, have lots of bison, elk, deer, all sorts of herbivores moving through areas that we don't have anymore. The numbers just aren't that stable. And so that area doesn't get any of the nutrients from their feces. The grass can die, it dries out, becomes desert, and that spreads. One of the ideas is actually to bring livestock in so that they can take the place of what we've gotten rid of. And so that's a way that cows could be helpful. And think about it. A tree is worth a lot more than you would guess. They make oxygen through photosynthesis, they help take in pollution, they decrease the soil erosion and help the soil fertility, they help water stay there. They have got really deep roots so the water can move through slowly. It doesn't just dry up really quick. And then you also get fruits, lumber, and trees are nice. So our greenhouse emissions have been rising. We need politics to come in and help us. It's not a party problem. There's not one party for it. The only way that's political is that we need to pass laws. It shouldn't be any sort of argument at all. We should all be for making a healthier US for everybody. And it's so sad that people make it a political party agenda item when science is really here to just try to help. And the worst thing that could happen if we make these changes is we make the world cleaner. What can you do on an individual level? We talked about eating cows a little bit. Overall, you want to be able to reduce your carbon footprint. How much greenhouse gas you're emitted. How can we do that? Reduce your use of electricity. In the summer, have your AC set at 76 instead of 72. In the winter, when it's cold, have your heat down at 64 instead of 72, for example. What I do with my computers and TV is I have them plugged into a power outlet, and when we're not using them, we turn that power outlet off so they're not drawing electricity. You can drive less. Public transportation, I wish it was bigger because it's such a great way to reduce carbon footprints and make life easier. You can also recycle. If you live within Warren County city limits, you have already paid for your recycling through BGMU. All you have to do is call Southern Recycling and they'll give you a recycling bin. Another important idea that I'll stress more, next slide, is reducing our use. Reducing the amount of consumerism and the fact that we buy lots of disposable items. The Story of Stuff is a wonderful documentary series. Go into movies. You can watch different movies on where water bottles go, spending, makeup, electronics. It's really interesting. And what it shows, the longest documentary is 20 minutes. It's a story of stuff. You should watch it. It shows the steps from taking resources from the earth, mining them, refining them, and all the waste that comes at each of those steps, to us buying them, bringing them home, using them, and throwing them away. You might not believe it, but it's true. For everything that we buy, within 6 months, 99% of everything is thrown away. And that includes the waste that's been made along the way. So we need to think about decreasing our buying of disposable items, going for a little bit nicer things that we don't have to buy as often. And it can really save you money in the long run. Please watch. So let's look at what happens when we dispose of things. A couple of places that your trash can go. It can go into a trash heap. A lot of it goes in the ocean, most commonly cigarette filters and packaging. You've heard of the Pacific area that's full of garbage. That's basically a little mini continent, probably. It's about twice the size of Texas. Well, there are as large of areas in other parts of the world where currents come together as well, where you've just got waste accumulating, and animals, marine life can get caught in there, as you can see. It's very sad. They are coming up with cool ways to try to clean it up, but it's hard to clean it up without putting more out in there and polluting more. So it's very difficult. So they have to find an efficient enough way to do it, to clean it up and not make it worse, which is very difficult. They need to find new technology. Things that you can do instead of throwing stuff away, you can reuse it, like we talked about before. Like here they've got pop bottles where they're growing plants in there, maybe some herbs. You can compost. So I do this at my house, and what I do is I have a container that's covered in the backyard so it doesn't get rained in and soggy. But I put all of my food products in here that are not meat or dairy. So grains, vegetables, fruits, coffee and coffee filters are great in there. And I let them sit and let worms break them down, and I mix it up every once in a while. And this is a really nutrient-rich creation. And what we do is we put it on our garden at the start of each year. And then that provides the nutrients for the fruit and vegetables that we grow. And that allows us to not use fertilizers. So recycling is important. It gets things out of landfills. But like if you watch the story of water bottles, they don't all get recycled. Some of them still, after being recycled, get thrown away. So it's really, we need to focus on reduce and reuse, especially reduce. Think about all the things that you buy with extra packaging. Is there any way you could buy them with less packaging? Think about it and try to find ways that you can. What else can you do? You can eat locally. There are several farmers markets in Bowling Green, for example, that have great fruits and vegetables. They don't have to transport things all over the world. It's very quick, very low carbon footprint. It's good to support those when you can. So what species are going to be able to actually adapt if we have climate change occurring and don't stop it? The species that have high genetic variability, so hopefully some of them will be able to cope with these changing times, and those with shorter lifespans where you can see more generations. An elephant can take 20 years between generations, whereas, mice is a couple weeks. So the mice are going to go through more generations and have more evolution possible. So it's important to think about we're in the 6th extinction period. We need to make a change.